All right, guys, I think we are live, and I'm going to let you know right up front, I'm a little bit intimidated simply because this is the first live stream that I'm doing on my own. You know, I've done some in the past with other people, I've helped moderate them, but I've never just been the sole person in front of the camera the entire time. I had a lot of fun being on Super Aero Live a couple of weeks ago, and it kind of inspired me to like, hey, this is something that you can do. And so I'm like, yeah, I think I will. So today is the first live stream that we're going to be starting, and I'm going to be doing these once a month for the rest of 2021. I'm super excited about it, and I hope that you guys are too, and can come and join me because a lot of what I am doing is going to be dependent on what you guys want. I want to be able to have guests on here. I want you guys to ask your questions. I want to be able to answer them and try to give you as much information as we can in the fly with the guys kind of style. And tonight, it's mostly just going to be me talking head to the camera, to you guys. But later on, again, guests, Tiffany's going to be here. She's going to host some of these or co-host with me on some of them. So we're just really, really excited about what we're going to be able to do with these live streams. So again, come join us, hit the subscribe button, and follow us on social media. That's where we're going to be posting about what's going on, and you can post your questions there as well. I do use the, what is it? Starts with a C. That section inside of the YouTube, the community. There we go. The community tab. I do ask questions and stuff inside of there, which is where a majority of the questions that I'm going to start with tonight are going to come from. Now, I am going to be focused down here sometimes on my laptop, so it's going to look really weird because I'm looking down and I'm going to be looking up here as much as I can, but I want to engage with you guys in the comments as much as I can and talk to you guys and answer questions. And first off, I want to give a shout out to possibly one of my favorite people who shows up to everyone's live stream, and that's Dutchy Girl. She's on the other side of the world, and I don't have a watch on, but I'm pretty sure it's 4 a.m. where she is. So hi, Dutchy Girl, and thank you for watching our stream. Other people that have shown up a little bit early here, we've got Tom Bliss, we've got Ryan, which is exciting. Let's see here. Hi, mate. Aramic E? Is that what we're doing here? And I'm really bad at reading names, so if I slaughter your name, I'm very sorry. But I'm very excited all of you are here. So, some other housekeeping stuff that I want to talk about. Where we've been. Our last video was inside of November 11th, Veterans Day here inside of the United States. And we made a great video to honor the armed branches of the United States. It was a very exciting video. It was a production piece that was kind of dear to my heart. Just honoring the people who serve and protect our country, and I know each of you and throughout the world also have your own branches of of armed forces that help protect your borders. So, but I haven't made anything since then, and before that it was a little bit lackluster as well. And it's just because there's a lot going on here at the house. It blew up, not literally, just figuratively, because we decided to renovate, and so the house got torn to pieces, and it's still kind of a mess. If you look over here, there's some airplane parts, which if you're following me on social media, you may have seen that one before. And then over here on my other shoulder, you see a little sign that says airplane. All of this is part of a new set that's coming up. We're building it right now. I'm actually sitting right in front of it, but you can't see much of it, and that's intentional. And once it's all done, you guys will be able to see it. It's going to be much more hangar-like, I would say, and I'm very excited about it. More airplane-y for sure, and we're doing a whole vlog video on the creation or construction of this set, which again, I'm very excited about, and it's definitely going to help the content and how it flows and works for you guys as you're learning and growing with us. So, I think that's it for housekeeping right here, and so I'm going to jump in and see if you guys have asked any quick questions, which it doesn't look like you have. Oh, there is one there, but sometimes I don't know the answers to these things off the top of my head, and I have to do research. And very few pilots, well, there are some great pilots out there and great instructors that can just rattle things off. But me, I like to do research. I like to make sure that I'm giving the best and concise information that I possibly can. So there was a question about special VFR. As far as I know, you have to request it, and it has to be granted from you or to you, and that's about it, given that the conditions allow for such. So we're going to dive right into these questions that were given to me inside of the community section. And the first one comes from Steve Thompson. And Steve Thompson he's a local guy. He lives up at a private airport that is east of me. And actually, that opening where we were flying around, and if you look down at the ground and out in the distance, you can see that airport because we flew right over it on that flight. But he wanted me to go over engines and what the different numbers and things on them mean. Like, what does the O320 mean versus the O470 versus the IO versus the... Steve, I don't know. But like you said, we might be able to do a video on it, and I think that could be fun. So I'll reach out to you, and we'll see what we can put together. So on to the first question that I know that I can answer. And this one's from I'm Not Listening. Maybe I shouldn't answer this. We'll do it anyways. He says, how many hours do you think a student pilot should have before their first solo flight? Now, that is a very loaded question, and it's different for every person and every CFI and even every flight school. There's really two camps that people are in, and the first camp is get you to solo as fast as you possibly can. And that was the camp that I was in when I was training, not just mentally, but that's where my instructor was as well. And even though I was slowly going through my training, when the time arrived that I was able to solo, I went and I soloed. So sometimes people say, well, I soloed in 10 hours. Someone will say, well, I soloed in 15. And there's always this argument, and people think they're cool the sooner they solo, but that's not always the case. And I don't think it's a metric that we should be judging ourselves by, because the other school of thought is do it later on. Do it a couple weeks before your check ride, which I know sounds weird, but a couple weeks before your check ride, you go on your solo, you plug in all your solo time, you come back to your instructor, get your 3 hours in with him, and then go do your check ride, and you're ready to go. And so some people are just sitting there and they're waiting and waiting to solo, and they're just not doing it. And it's because that's the school of thought. Now, a way to understand when you should be is really being in communication with your instructor at all times, or your flight school, and trying to understand that. And some people say, well, what if they're milking me for money? And that, unfortunately, is a scenario or a case that we can run into. And what you need to know is what they want you to know in order to solo. And I've written them down here. The first one is make sure you know how to use the radios, that you can communicate with air traffic control. That's a big one, because if you get up inside of the air and you don't know what to say or what to do, and you get flustered because you can't communicate, that's not an okay situation for you or anyone else that's flying. Now, granted, you're going to be telling air traffic control, well, typically you'll tell air traffic control if you're doing it at a controlled field, that this is your student solo, and they're going to be a lot nicer to you, give you more breathing room, and maybe talk a little bit slower to you. But just know that that's the first thing that they're looking for. Second one is cockpit management. There's a lot that goes on in the cockpit. There's a lot of things that are going on, and a lot of things that you have to focus on. And so being able to manage all of those, we'll call them stressors at this point in time, and to safely land the airplane, that's important, and that's something that they're looking for. Also, confidence in yourself, that you know that you're ready, you know that you're capable, and that you can land this plane, and that you're not going to clam up in the air. I've heard of that happening. It's a very scary scenario for everyone involved, and you don't want to be in it. So they're looking to make sure that you're confident, but not cocky. You don't want to be like that. You want to make sure that you're ready, and make sure you don't have any of those pilot attitudes that would keep you from doing your student solo. We already talked about this one, flying safe, and also the knowledge that goes with it, which before you can solo, your instructor has to give you a solo test. And once you pass that and then have those few things, understand the comms, you're able to manage what's going on in the cockpit, so you're confident in what's going on, and you're able to fly safe, you're ready, and they know you're ready. And if you feel that you're at that point and you're not soloing, talk to your instructor, talk to your flight school, see what's really going on. Because if you're at 60 hours and you feel you're like you were ready 20 hours ago, there might be a problem, and you may want to talk to someone about it. So that's a really good question, so thanks for asking it. I'm not listening, and I hope you did listen to that one. All right, let's jump back over to this chat because I see it just scrolling by. Everyone's asking all kinds of things over here. A lot of Amric E says, does Steve do a lot of $100 hamburger runs to crosswinds at Payson Airport? Probably, but I also do a lot of hamburger runs to Payson Airport, which was exactly what the flight you saw was a run over to Payson for a hamburger. It was literally 8 a.m. and yes, no. I did eat breakfast that morning, but I still ordered French fries. So, all right. AJ Mojica? I don't know. Asks, I've been looking for passengers getting into a 310. Have you ever seen it? Do they have to climb over the front seats? And my understanding is yes, but there's a couple of different 310s out there. Some have a small passenger or baggage door, and others have a large baggage door. The large baggage door, sometimes kids can climb up in there and get into those rear seats, but yes, you're mostly climbing over those. And I just saw a super chat come through, and that's from Ty Hancock, who's actually my son. But Ty, thank you anyways. And for those of you who are friends of Ty, have been asking where he is, he's around. He's going to be up in some of the upcoming videos, especially the construction ones. All right. I'm not sure this person has a name. It looks more like a date or numeric code for them, but SFX0930201 asks tips and checkpoints for preparation for an upcoming check ride. For example, should you fly the night before or not fly at least twice a week leading up to it? Any tips that I could have? So some of the tips that I have for a check ride is, first, I have a video that I made on how the check ride works. And I highly recommend you go check that one out. I will go ahead and put it down inside of the description. And it's all about the ACS, Airman Certification Standards, and how they work, how the, not the instructor, the examiner, designated pilot examiner, DPE, how he is supposed to work, and how the whole thing is supposed to lay out inside of a scenario. Understanding how it works is key because it can help you know what's going on. Now, as far as a tip, like leading up to it, I don't know if there's any good thing or bad thing. Just the day before, relax. Try not to worry. Try to make yourself comfortable and get a good night's sleep. Don't necessarily go flying the day before, but definitely make sure you're ready the days prior to that, just so that you can be prepared. As far as the check ride itself goes, if you're progressing, you're passing. So if you do something unsatisfactory, they're supposed to let you know right then and there. So if you're in the middle of your oral, you say something wrong, they're supposed to say that's an unsatisfactory, and you're supposed to stop at that point. Same thing with your flight. If you're up there, you're flying, and you do a maneuver, and you're like, man, I totally messed that up. If the scenario continues to develop and you continue to fly, it doesn't matter. You've already passed that section. He's supposed to tell you, or she, supposed to tell you right then and there if you made a mistake. So I think those are the best thing. Oh, and last one, during your check ride, if during the flight portion something bad happens and you have to discontinue or it's an unsatisfactory, don't discontinue the flight. The pressure's off at that point. Go ahead and do as many maneuvers as you can, because anything that you can still execute at that time still counts. And then maybe you only have to come back and do one thing instead of redoing half the check ride. So SF0930201, that's my advice for your check ride. Let's go back here to the comments. Craig, in all capital letters, favorite airline. I don't fly much in the major airlines. It was funny because the last couple times I flew in the major airlines, I tried to reach behind me to get my harness, which is kind of weird. It took me a few seconds of reaching back and fiddling for it to realize it's not there. But I typically fly Southwest. I like how their boarding stuff happens. It's kind of fun for me. So let's see if there's any else here that I can just see randomly. Craig also asks, is it better to be able to fly a helicopter or a fixed wing? I'm not sure. I guess that's personal preference. I personally like the fixed wing. I feel safer in it. I've been in a helicopter once, and it was a little uneasy for me, but I think I could get over a little bit more of that with exposure. and understanding it a lot better. So, okay. Oh, and XF, yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. All right. This is Mohammed Ahmed. He asks, is it a good idea to save for each pilot license? And then do I need to save for the next license? Or is it inefficient? Because I've heard that it isn't good to take long between breaks. And he goes on and gives a small example. If you talk to any CFI, they will tell you that the faster you go through it, the less training or money, I guess, you would spend. Now, the average right now is literally, it's 40 to be able to get your certificate is the minimum. When you add your check right onto that, usually 41 and a half or 42 all in, but the average is around 65 to 70. So take that into consideration when you're trying to understand how much it's going to cost you. And we've made some great videos on how much that's going to cost to give you a rough idea of what you're going to be spending. But again, any instructor is going to tell you, get through it as fast as you can. So save up, figure out how much it's going to cost, and save up for that and get through it. And also save up some money to fly past that. There's a lot of people who make a mistake that will save up, get their certificate, and then they're like, now what? I don't have money to be able to fly, let alone get to the next certificate. And if I'm thinking of the question a little bit better, yeah, you'll get through it. And then don't just stop flying. Fly every couple of weeks, and then go and continue to save, but fly every couple of weeks and work towards getting your next rating. But yeah, saving up for each one and getting through it as fast as possible can help reduce the number of hours that you spend learning, and can help lower the overall cost of getting your license or certificate. All right, I'm coming up with something new. If you guys are asking a question at me, definitely at me inside of the comments because it lights up orange and I can see it. So, Amaric E, again, did you train part 61 or part 141? I trained part 61. I actually prefer it that way, mostly because I felt like I was more in control of my own education and my own destiny, I guess you would say. I have some videos on that, as well as taking charge of your pilot training to make sure that you know what's going on and so that you can get through things the best. Even making the most out of the instructor you have, regardless of if they're a good instructor, if they're a brand new instructor, if they're they've been a seasoned instructor, what you should do and what you should know to get through it. And that's just me. I like part 61, but I also fly recreationally. So there's a big debate on 61 versus 141, and it really comes down to what each person does. But again, I chose 61. Let's see here. I like this one. I was just talking with my friend about it. I don't know the answer to it, but Bayou 2000 says, I'm sorry. Wait, was that one? These keep moving on me. It wasn't Bayou. It was Alex Sirabaz. I have a question. If I'm not instrument rated, but the weather gets bad and I'm stuck above the clouds, what do I do? This comes with knowledge and cockpit risk management and everything that's going on. Ideally, you would want to see if you can get away from the weather or go back and then descend down through it or return. But what I would do if I found myself stuck in that situation is definitely contact air traffic control or flight center, whoever you need to contact, even if it's 121.5 here in the United States, and they will help you and get you out of the situation as best as they can. Heaven forbid that happens to you at night. I've only heard of one situation where that has happened, and just hearing the story scared me to death. So, going to go back here to some questions that were asked previously again. Why did you decide to become a pilot? I like airplanes, and they fly, but I like airplanes. So why did I become a pilot? Because I definitely like airplanes, and the byproduct of that is flight. So I don't necessarily want to just sit there and work on them all the time. I do love flying. I love flying just as much as I love airplanes, but the machines themselves fascinate me. A buddy of mine took me on a private tour of a a jet recently. What was it? I'm a little flustered and tired. But a Citation, there we go, Citation Excel. It was amazing. Like, I was just eating up everything that he was telling me and showing me, and I can't wait to be at a point inside of my life where I need to get a type rating, because everything that you have to learn and know about that, all the systems, the management, what this door lock does, I find that stuff interesting and fascinating, and that's what's really driven me to be a pilot. And the other side of that, again, the flying, I can't get over the beauty of the world. Just going up and flying is amazing for me. I happen to live in a beautiful state of Arizona. People think we're flat. We have mountains like crazy. Most of my flying is mountain flying. People don't realize that, but most of it is mountain flying. I'm usually flying 8,000 feet or above. That's the altitudes I fly at. So going back over here to the comments, again, looking for the orange. Do you have plans to become a CFI? Ooh, so this one's a stinger. A lot of people think that I'm already a CFI. I am not. I'm not a CFI. That is why I have a disclaimer on all of my videos saying these are for informational purposes only. You saw it at the beginning of this one. I do have a lot of knowledge. I am this close to being an advanced ground instructor. And once I hit that, I feel like it'll help me a lot in what I'm doing. And I will be doing, oh gosh, that's a spoiler. I'm going to start doing supplemental ground instruction for people who are caught up and having problems with specific topics inside of their education for their private pilot certificate. So, do I have plans to become a CFI? Yes. Once I get to that point and become a commercial pilot, I will do commercial and become an instructor at the same time. So, good question. And it opened a door to a lot of other information that most people don't know. And hi, Wolf Pilot. Welcome. I'm glad you were able to make it. I see another question down here from Giodude, G-I-O-D, dude. Does it really matter which school is better? And when you say school, I'm thinking flight school, whether it's a 61 or 141. And some people put a lot of prestige in certain flight schools. Like if I say Embry-Riddle, everyone's like, oh, I know Embry-Riddle. They're everywhere. And it has some prestige with it or some stigma to it, and sometimes negative. Like if I was to say ATP, there's a lot of memes out there about ATP pilots who have gone through the school. Nothing against them. I'm just saying they're there. But at the end of the day, it depends on what your career goals are. Because if you're just going to be a recreational pilot and you want to do it privately, that's great. Or if you want to do it through flight school, that's great. Because guess what? They're teaching the same things. You're passing the same tests. And it's the same certificate inside of the end. So it really is preference. And so when you ask, is there one school that's better than another? When you realize that you're taking the same tests and have to take the check ride with the same examiners under the same rules and stipulations, I don't know. Just take what I said with a grain of salt, and I'm just going to leave that one right there. So, this is a funny question that I got, so I'm going to pose it to you guys, and it's from someone named Because Two, and they write, do you think a horse would enjoy a bouncy house? I say double the legs, double the fun. All I'm thinking about is how heavy the horse is, and it would probably just deflate the bouncy house. But, I mean, if it was more robust, I'm sure he would have a really good time. I'm sure of it, yeah. Okay. Looking for some other questions over here in the comments. Sorry, I'm down here again. I'm not seeing anything really quickly. So I'm going to move on to the next question here. And I can't even this name. I can't. Sorry. Himananshu Hirazawa 2. I put these on the screen, but I just took a screenshot of these, and I'm not because I'm doing all this on my own through different software that I'm used to. I can't just throw them up there. But he says, tried recording audio on GoPro Hero 9 using the GoPro adapter and the line in mode, but when I play it back, it has very low volume. What should I do? In that situation, realize that the audio that's coming to the GoPro is typically going to your headset. So if the line in isn't powerful enough, it's because the volume for the intercom probably isn't turned up enough. So I would try turning up the volume on the intercom. If you can't or don't want to do that, the other solution is to go to a standard mic input on the GoPro. Typically, we don't use that because it blows everything out or gets feedback. But those are kind of your real options. And then as far as the GoPro 9, in the end, you can always boost that audio and to see if that helps inside of post edit. So that's a good question right here, but I'm going to come back over here to the comments because I really like you guys being engaged, and I'm just seeing stuff fly by through here, and I'm sorry if I'm not getting to everything. Dutchy Girl, what is your favorite aviation movie? I was really, really excited to see Top Gun, the next movie that came out. So I enjoy those movies. I can't say the Fast and Furious where they had the 32-mile long runway because that was ridiculous. But as far as, I haven't seen terribly too many. I watched a bunch before I became a pilot, but I haven't watched a lot since I became a pilot. I mostly watch YouTube for those types of things. So I can't say that I have a favorite one, but I did enjoy Top Gun as a kid. I still enjoy it, and I'm very excited for when it comes out the second time. By the way, never mind. Mike Hines. I don't have my instrument rating yet, but I have gone through the ground school. I found that just doing ground school has made me a more precise pilot. Is that your experience? Yes, and that's not just with instrument rating. That's any additional learning, I feel like helps me become a better pilot. I joined one of the safety pilot groups here inside of Arizona, and we have meetings once a month, and then I joined another group that's kind of a branched off of them for making safety videos, which you guys might be seeing some. You probably won't see me in them. I've already said I don't want to be in them, but I'm in the background helping with them. And just sitting in those groups, I learn a lot. And you can learn just as much on the ground and take that to the skies. And yes, the instrument rating, I keep hearing time and time again, if you want to become a better pilot, become an instrument pilot. But I also hear if you want to become a better pilot, be a tailwheel pilot. If you want to be a better pilot, be a glider pilot. There are all kinds of things that we can do that can help us become better pilots up inside of the air. But you did use the word precise, and I will definitely agree with you on that. There is a lot of precision involved inside of instrument flying. Not there yet myself. I'd like to be soon, and I'm trying to spin some wheels to get there, hopefully later this year, but we have other projects coming up, especially with Tiffany, and so that one is going to have to come first. All right, let's go back to this other question. This says, Camden, hiya. I'm really trying, I just have a hard time. Any tips for cross countries to unfamiliar airports as a new private pilot? Yes, it is intimidating going to new places because when you're a student pilot, you go to the same places probably regularly. And in fact, I still go to the same places, over and over again. I go to Payson, I go to Sedona. Those are probably the two main places I go. I also like to go to Flagstaff. I will fly more north, and I have plans to go to other places I haven't been. And so outside of the normal things that we do, like flight planning, checking for weather, and looking at the airport information and verifying runways, what I would do, and this sounds totally stupid, but I am making a video on this soon. It is one of my key points for using a flight simulator on the computer. Flight Simulator 2020 has given us a tool that I think is absolutely invaluable. And I hear all kinds of people saying, it's not as good as X-Plane 11. The flight dynamics aren't quite there yet, and they do have a ways to go. But the one thing that they do have is they took real-world imagery to create their game or their simulator here, And I can't tell you, I've been wanting to fly into Cottonwood Airport. And when I fly between here and Sedona, I see it all the time. But when I got Flight Simulator 2020, I took off from Sedona and I went and landed at Cottonwood. And I can't tell you how realistic not realistic, but the scenery, how realistic it was. And it gave me that site profile. It gave me the idea of what the ground is supposed to look like, what buildings are where. When you get close to those buildings, they don't look anything like they do in real life, but they definitely look like they should from the air. And so I highly recommend that if you're flying to an unfamiliar airport, pop on Flight Simulator 2020, fly from your airport to that airport or another airport that's close to it, like I did Sedona to Cottonwood instead of Phoenix to Cottonwood because it's a shorter flight. But it will give you visual information that you probably can't get anywhere else. That is my suggestion for flying to unfamiliar airports. Okay, I'm going to come back over here to the comments. I'm just going through it real quick, looking for question marks. I don't see any. Again, if you want me to see the question, definitely at me inside of the comments and it pops up for me and I can see it really, really easily. And I see someone saying, do I know anything about the recent changes to flying through MOAs? No, I don't, because I typically don't fly through any. I have heard that there were recent changes to it, and I do need to investigate that. So sorry, I'm not able to answer that question off the top of my head. All right. Here's a question from Connor. Connor asks, am I ever going to do fan meetups with fellow Arizona pilots? Yes. I want to do that. I'm going to wait till some dust settles here at the house. Like I said, we've been doing renovations. We've been having some other things going on. And soon as those things are over and I have a little bit more free time, like my kids are going back to physical school instead of virtual school, I will have time to do pilot meetups. And I think that's going to be fun. And I'm very, very excited. Obsessed partner. Fly with the guys. Are Jeppesen charts that hard? I just asked this question to my instructor, and he said that Jeppesen's charts are considered the gold standard because they provide more information in an easier way and they flow better, and that's why everybody wants to use them. In comparison to the one that the FAA produces, I don't know. He told me it really also comes down to what you learn on. If I go and learn on the FAA charts, I'll learn them and I'll be able to pick up charts very, very easily. So I'm looking at renewing my 4-flight subscription. I'm trying to decide if I should just get the Jeppesen charts or just use the FAA ones. And I still haven't decided yet. But with what my instructor said, I'm leaning closer to getting them. And that's all I'm going to say about that one. Sarah Applewhite, can you customize a low-wing plane? All right, now you're getting into some fun discussions about experimental versus certified aircraft. You can make changes to your aircraft, even if it's certified, but some of it requires a mechanic sign-off, and some of it requires submitting some stuff to the FAA for approval as well. So if you have an experimental airplane, stuff like that is a lot easier. There are a lot of low-wing experimental aircraft, especially vans. They're RV series. All of them are low-wing aircraft. So yeah, sure. You get an experimental airplane, you can make changes to it and have it very customized. Let's see here. I'm going to answer my last question that was on my list here, and then I'm going to come back. You guys are lighting up that screen very, very well. Have you always wanted to be... I shouldn't have done that. I'm just going to read it because I can't say that name. Have you always wanted to become a pilot? And he says it's his dream since childhood and hopes that someday he'd be able to do it. I do remember being a kid and always being distracted by airplanes. I remember when I was in elementary school, I traveled by bus for about 40 minutes during the school day for an elective class to another school to take a class with about 12 other students that was called Just Plain Crazy. And yes, I have always wanted to become a pilot, but I forgot that I wanted to become a pilot. As I got older, became a teenager, going to school, started getting into that routine of what people think that they need to do. I go to high school, I'm supposed to go to college, I'm supposed to get a job, and it didn't occur to me to become a commercial pilot and fly for the airlines at that time when I was thinking at that level. And then I forgot about it till about 2015. And in 2015, I took my son to a scouting event, and it was at the airport, and my instructor happened to be leading it, showed all the kids a 172. This was a bunch of 8-year-olds. There was so many parents there basically handcuffing their children so that they didn't break anything on it, but it reignited my memory of what I wanted to do, that I wanted to become a pilot, and it was very hard because it was all downhill from there, and my wife was off and on supportive, and then in the end, she was very supportive, and now she is going to be taking some pilot training soon. So that's kind of my brief story of what happened, but have always wanted to be a pilot. Yes, I just forgot, and now I'm happy that I am one. So, all right, coming back over here to the questions. Excuse me while I bury my head for a moment. Oh my gosh, you guys are doing this on purpose. I said that, and then you started typing, and they're all moving. Oh, some of these require, like Mike Hines, you're asking questions about weather when you're flying inside the Western United States, the winds and the differences and things that are going there. Weather has always eluded me. I'm very good with the weather inside of my area. I could answer that question, but I would want to consult more information before I answered that question. But what I would say, if you're getting to places that are flat, make sure you can understand how your compass works. And definitely be prepared. I remember flying inside of Texas, and I had no idea where I was going or what was happening. It was so flat. I like having the mountains where I live because I know where I'm going. Amric E again. Runway landing preference at Sedona, runway 3 or runway 21. I told you guys about that flight safety group that I'm a part of. One of the things that they want to do is create a video on how to fly to Sedona properly. I made a brief video on visiting Sedona. My wife told me in the end I should sell it to Sedona as a travel vlog. I think she's kind of right. I was trying to do some kind of like, high-end production stuff and thinking that I was cool, but in the end it felt like a travel vlog for Sedona. But in it I mildly talk about landing there. Runway 3, as long as the winds allow. Reason for that, runway 3 is a uphill slope, so when you land on it, it helps you stop quickly. No matter what, always come in on either end of the mesa high. When the wind blows across that mesa, it has a tendency to create downdrafts as it rolls off the ends of the mesa, and you don't want to be caught in one of those. And if the winds are favoring 2-1, definitely land there. The winds will help you slow down. But the bigger and faster your airplane is, the more you're going to want to land on runway 3. Trust me, there have been several accidents where people have overrun the runway from landing on runway 21. And just to let you guys know a little secret, that tail right there, from Mooney, it's from a Mooney M20. It went off the runway at the end of Sedona. That's what's left of it. And it's going on my wall. All right. Lots of questions coming in here, guys. Thank you. Let's keep talking about it. Some of them have already been buried and flown up. But I'm sorry, I'm just murdering names. Can I become a pilot at the age of 16? In the United States, the answer is no. You can become a student pilot at the age of 16, but you cannot become a pilot until the age of 17. A lot of people will become a student on their 16th birthday when their parents are teaching them or they're having fun, and they will take their check right on their 17th birthday. But there's no rules on when you can start logging time and be in training. In fact, I see videos, and I want to learn a little bit more about it, of this young girl who's doing aerobatics in the airplane with her dad inside of the back, and she's controlling the airplane. And it's like, she's got to be building hours. Someone trained her to fly that airplane. And yes, if he is an instructor and is filling out a logbook for her, even though she looked like she was 7 or 8 years old, still count. As far as I know, someone, if you can find something deep in the FARs and make me wrong, that's totally fine. But yes, you do need your student pilot certificate to solo. So everything prior to that will be with somebody else. What are some tips you could give to a new pilot? That's coming from Bayou 2000. Some of the best tips. I still feel like I'm a new pilot. And I think all of us will feel that way. I always feel like someone at some point thought that I was safe enough to give a certificate to. But my best advice is keep flying. Keep flying. Budget flying inside of your expenses. Make sure that you can keep flying. The more that you do, the better you become, the more comfortable you become inside of the air. Share it with people as well. If you feel confident and safe, share aviation. We have been seeing a drastic drop in the number of pilots inside of the United States, and I love sharing aviation. Every video that I have ended with share aviation wherever you can. So keep flying and share it with people. That's my advice to a new pilot. Amric E., how many of those 8-year-olds asked if the pitot tube was a machine gun? I don't think any of them did, but that's funny. I definitely like that one. Any tips for a private pilot check ride? I have mine at the end of the month, and that's from Dylan Davis. Dylan, we actually answered that question just a little while ago, but I wanted to let you know you can go back and watch the live stream once it's over, but go to my channel, and there's a video on the private pilot check ride, how the ACS works. Definitely check that one out because it gives you a lot of information to help you get through that. And Dion, what is it, Orgaman? Or I don't know. Is a Cessna 152 good for a private pilot license, and opinion on air traffic control jobs? I'd say the 152 is a great trainer. I'm pretty sure that's what it was meant to do, is just be a training aircraft. I'm sorry if you're a 152 owner and think that it's not, but it is. So yes, it would be a great option. It's economical. Maintenance is typically less expensive for some reason. But as far as air traffic control jobs, I wouldn't mind learning that myself and potentially becoming an air traffic controller later on in my life. Granted, I don't think I'm going that route, but it's definitely something that if I wasn't doing this, I might be thinking about, especially if aviation was out of my financial abilities. I love aviation and airplanes enough now that it's definitely something I would pursue. It can be a high stress, high demand job, but here at Deer Valley Airport, we have it's very, very busy, and our controllers are amazing, and they get put through the ringer every single day. I don't know how many in 2019, just because of COVID and everything happened in 2018, we were over 450,000 operations, which is just incredible. The Marana, Arizona, that we're doing a safety video on because it's a busy airport, has about 30,000. So just for comparison. Let's go back over here. Colin Haraway says, I have an upcoming cross-country flight through Washington SFRA, and I have to fly through the corridor. Should I plan on a TAC or VFR sectional for that? Anything that gives you better detail and information about what you need to do to fly through that corridor, use that. Use that. That's what you should be doing. The nice thing about ForeFlight is, if you're using ForeFlight, is you can utilize both technically, because you zoom out and you get the higher level of it. You zoom in and you can get more information on it. So That's the same thing when I was flying through the corridors of the Grand Canyon. If you zoom up enough, you get special airspace for the Grand Canyon. It's tours, it's corridors and stuff that you just normally don't see. But yes, anything that gives you the detail that you need to fly it properly and safely, that's the one that you should be using. Bayou 2000, I am not great at math. I was wondering how much you use and how hard is it? Math, I'm not good at quick math inside of my head. As far as the math goes, for just being a private pilot certificate holder, it's not terrible. There are some skills and stuff that you need to learn how to use on the E6B, or learn how to plug those into a flight computer to be able to get those to pop out. But it really is just basic math. If you go on a little bit further, it's basic algebra. It's not terrible, and I would say don't worry about it. And most of the time, unless you're in the air, you're going to be provided a calculator. So let's keep looking. It's funny, someone said the same thing I did. Christopher Bowers, what are the average costs involved to obtain my private pilot license? I made a video on that. That's one of my more popular videos, is how much it costs. There's some other ones that are out there. I don't like them because they don't give you real numbers. They give you numbers that they paid, and everyone's situation is different. Everyone's scenario is different. So go to my channel, use the Wayback Machine, and you'll find the what does it cost to get your private pilot license, and that goes through an actual cost breakdown of how much you're going to spend on your instructor, how much you're going to spend on your airplane rental, how much you're going to spend on materials, how much you should expect to spend on a check ride. Now, the numbers may not be accurate, but it'll give you the formula that you'll need to be able to plug all of those numbers in and get an accurate, close to accurate number of how much it's going to cost you to get your private pilot certificate. Then, if you want to, you can call flight schools inside of the area and ask them how much it's going to cost, and kind of get an idea on if that is valuable to go to a flight school or to do it. Before I said that, the numbers I came up with are for Part 61, finding a private instructor and going that route. They weren't 141 because you just call a flight school and ask how much it costs. So, let's see here. Got that one. Ali Shamala Joma, what question are you asking? I don't see it. Go ahead and post it again, and I'll see if I can see it. And there is a lag here. Oh, there was one more question inside of my list that I did not address. Let's go ahead and address it. What is this private pilot license thing you keep talking about? It doesn't exist in the US. This question, or more stab, they're taking a stab at me, is a pet peeve of mine for some reason, because it's not so much that I know it's not a license, I know it's called a certificate, but if you ask anybody on the streets who doesn't have a certificate, doesn't know anything about aviation, and say, hey, what do you need to learn how to fly? A private pilot license. A lot of our channel is to help people who want to learn how to fly and help them through their private pilot training. And so we use the word license in a lot of our stuff. If you go and watch our more advanced stuff, like we have a handful of videos on what does it take to get the instrument rating. We use certificate inside of that one because typically people who are looking up how to get their instrument rating are already pilots and have their certificate. So, all right, going down through here again. And I'm going to probably wrap this up in about another 10-ish minutes, 9-10 minutes. So how much should I talk? Oh, this is Izam Hadweh. Again, I'm terrible with names. How much talk should the CFI be talking to the student during flight training? I'm 13 hours on my flight training, and I feel my CFI is not talking enough with me during the flight. That's a good question. I'm a sample size of 1 with that. I have flown and had check rides inside of, not check rides, but checkout flights in other aircraft, and they should be talking to you. They should be talking quite a bit. They are instructing you, and they should be helping you learn how to do things, letting you know when you're off specification. Like if you're practicing maneuvers, they should let you know after you complete it, your plus or minus, or what you can do to do a little bit better, or giving you some instruction to be better every single time. I went flying on a checkout flight, and during that flight, I was talking, and I talk out loud when I fly, even when I'm by myself, and I'm saying what's going on. And because I do that, I've been told multiple times, you are going to make a great instructor, because I'm talking about what's going on, talking through things, and it definitely helps. So if they're not talking to you, ask them to talk to you. Do it on the ground. Don't do it inside of the air, but ask them to communicate with you and help you through things. And if they're not capable of doing that because of how they instruct, or they think that they're doing enough already, you might want to find another instructor, someone that you work a little bit better with. All right. Dutchy Girl asks, in which airplane did I do all of my basic training in? That would be a Cessna 172. However, I did do my first cross country, which was like my 4th or 5th hour of flight, in a 182. And that was a wild ride. And the Alice, again, it says, do you think, I'm getting to your question. So it says, what do you think about me starting ground school is good for me at age 14 years old? Okay, yes, start when you're 14-year-old. That is totally fine. Learn as much as you can. We have a video on our channel. Again, go to that. And we have one on materials, books and materials, things that you need to be able to learn about to get through your training. You're not quite there yet. If I was to say what age should I start my physical training, I would probably say 15 and a half. That's totally fine. 14, then now is a great time to learn. Learn as much as you possibly can. Go find that materials video. There's tons of links to free resources for you to learn and grow as much as you possibly can through all the things you'll need for ground school. And if you can come and start your pilot training with that knowledge, you will be further ahead of the game than anybody else. I say that to anyone who goes and takes their written exam before they start their pilot training, way further ahead than anyone else, because they have a lot of that knowledge that's already there. So when they go and start their instructions, it's more of a quick discussion about what's happening instead of an educating moment. So definitely start learning as soon as you can. Dion Augerman says, is starting at 14 good, or should I wait until 17 all in one to solo and get the license? I say fly when you can. Learning is learning when you can. I just said it. Like with my kids, I'm going to teach them to fly. And I think it's going to be fun, but again, they can't become a student pilot and solo until 16 or get it until 17, get their certificate until they're 17. But fly, if you can fly and you have those opportunities, definitely do it. I don't think you should wait just because you want to, but just realize that there are limitations there that can stop you from progressing, but fly if you can fly. Cavalier 102.5. What is your biggest mistake to date? I have two that stick out inside of my mind. The first one goes back to that 182 I was just talking about. I'd flown it once previously. A nice member of a student pilot group was saying, hey, I'm going to be at the airport. Anyone want to go fly? Heck yeah, I want to go fly. He let me fly his airplane. And when I was turning from base to final at Deer Valley Airport, parallel runways, I maneuvered too far in, and I was in the path. Like as I was turning, I turned into the parallel runway. And he corrected me in a way that I will never forget. And that was my first mistake inside of an airplane, and I will never forget it. The other mistake is when the first time I had taken my wife flying to Sedona Airport, and it was a little warm out, and I was expecting some density altitude to be affecting our takeoff. I had just topped off the airplane unintentionally. I thought I had less fuel than I did. My airplane burns less fuel, I know that now, than the typical 172. And so we were taking off on runway 21, and I've already discussed that's downhill because runway 3 is uphill. And when I was doing that, in my run-up, I checked the magnetos, and I was ready to go. I took the runway, gave it full power, and I noticed it was anemic. I was not getting the power that I thought that I should be getting. And because in my head, I was thinking, this is that density altitude. This is density altitude. This is what it feels like. After I rotated, which didn't seem to take much longer than normal. But after I rotated, I wasn't climbing. And in my head, I'm like, this is just density altitude. But it got to the point where I'm not climbing. I was climbing maybe 150 feet per minute. I'm like, density out, no. I had calculated this. I should not have this performance. And I started checking. And I started looking around. And eventually, I realized that when I had checked my magnetos, for some reason, I had left it on the left mag. Big mistake in my mind. And I was getting ready to turn around and go land at the airport to see what was going on. I hadn't alerted my wife yet because I didn't want her to freak out. But as soon as I turned that to both, all of our power came back. All the performance came back. And what I was experiencing, what I thought was density altitude, was a mistake that I had made. Thankfully, not catastrophic. But I will never let myself live that one down. And to this day, I always double check prior to taking the runway to make sure that my magnetos are on both. That is my biggest mistake in my mind. And it's my biggest mistake because I had someone that I loved dearly with me. All right. I'm going to take one more question here, and then we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. This is Airmac E again. I love the E. My CFI told me to talk through doing procedures. I did that for my check ride with the DPE. I reckon that helped me pass. It showed the DPE, at least what I was thinking. Yes, absolutely do that. Talk about what you're doing. Talk about what's going on inside of your mind. And like I said, I do it out loud when I'm flying by myself. I still do it because saying things out loud, saying checklist item out loud instead of just in your mind, keeps you from moving too quickly, jumping over things, or forgetting things. And it's invaluable talking out loud. And I have had other instructors, like I was saying before, that I'm going to make a great instructor, but they also told me, I wish every single student I had talked the way that you do. I would not have to teach them nearly as much because I already know what they're thinking instead of telling them what they should be thinking. So I think that is good because you're at a point, if you're saying everything out loud, you already have your certificate, definitely probably helped you pass because the DPE is often wondering what you're thinking and if you're going to kill them. So, all right, guys, thank you. Thank you so much for being a part of this live stream tonight. It went very quickly. I can't believe an hour has already gone by. I hope that we can do this more again. I'm going to do these monthly. I hope to have guests. My wife is going to start showing up. We're always going to take questions, and I hope that you can join us in the future. As always, I said I always end it this way. Share aviation wherever you can, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye, guys.